The process of subduing the earth demon puppets was far smoother than what Xiao Yin had expected. This was because he did not discover even a trace of spiritual imprint in the body of these earth demon puppets. This kind of situation also caused Xiao Yin to feel quite lost. Perhaps it was because the countless amount of time had eroded the spiritual imprint, or perhaps that Do Shang class ancient expert did not possess much interest in these puppets that he had randomly created, and was even too lazy to place even a trace of spiritual imprint. Regardless of what the reason was, when Xiao Yan's spiritual strength invaded the bodies of these earth demon puppet, he had discovered that he had already established a relationship with them. This process was without even the slightest difficulty. Even if some other random person was to give it a try, he would be immediately able to control them. Therefore, Xiao Yan's expression had become quite strange after having kept all these puppets into his storage ring. His eyes glanced towards the gray-clothed old man, who was being beaten to the point of vomiting blood earlier. He quietly thought in his heart about whether this old fellow would vomit blood from anger, should he be aware that the method to pass through this place was so simple that it caused one to feel a disbelief. This little fellow, he has actually subdued those puppets. Everyone on the square was looking at Xiao Yin in a speechless manner, while that strange thought rose within Xiao Yan's heart. It had only been 2 to 3 minutes, but the 10-peak Do Zone class powerful puppet, which could even fight against a 2-star Do Zun with their combined strength, had actually landed in Xiao Yan's hands. For a moment, the expressions of quite a number of people became exceptionally interesting. The envy and jealousy within their eyes could not be hidden. A puppet that had the strength equivalent to a 2-star Do Zun. This was sufficient to stir the envy of anyone regardless of where one placed it. These people, especially those who had some grudge with Xiao Yin like Lei Zunjia, Binghe Zunjia, and the rest, were envious and unwilling to resign to the situation. The stronger the strength around Xiao Yin meant that the threat towards them would be greater. Xiao Yin merely took a glance and withdrew his sight in the face of the gazes from these fellows. No matter how these fellows view him with dislike, they would not dare to attack him here. The motive of this trip of theirs was the Tian class Do skill within the remains. How would they dare to engage in a life and death battle with Xiao Yan's group before they obtain it? Creak. Soon after Xiao Yin kept those 10 puppets into his storage ring, the tightly shut stone door emitted a creaking mechanical sound. That heavy, thick stone door was also slowly opened to reveal a hole. A desolate, ancient aura slowly drifted out following the gradual opening of the stone door. This caused quite a number of people to adopt a solemn expression. An item from the ancient times was quite scared to quite a number of people. Upon seeing the opening stone door, Xiao Yan's figure moved and gently drifted backwards, after which he once again returned to his position from earlier. The corner of the mouth of quite a number of people twitched upon seeing this action of his. They quietly cursed, "Crafty brat," in their hearts. It was obvious that Xiao Yin did not wish to be the first to enter this mysterious remains. The main door was slowly completely opened, and the creaking sound also gradually halted. Everyone on the square looked at each other. However, no one took the lead to walk in. Xiao Yin ignored the silence on the square. He rubbed the storage ring with his finger. The smile on the corner of his mouth was quite brilliant. It was unexpected that he had obtained such a treasure after just having entered the remains. This was considered good luck? There were occasionally some experts who would hurry over from outside of the square. Clearly, they were experts who had discovered the secret of the fire path. Upon seeing an increasing number of experts gathering at this place, those experts and factions that were the first to arrive became a little impatient. A moment later, there was finally someone who could not endure it any longer and took the lead to slowly walk into the stone door. Fortunately, no miserable cry appeared this time around. Everyone suddenly sighed in relief upon seeing that nothing happened to the leading goat. "Let's go." Xiao Yin smiled slightly. He let out a low cry as his foot stomped onto the ground. His body transformed into a black shadow that rushed into the remains behind the stone door with lightning-like speed. Little fairy doctor and the rest quickly followed behind him. This cunning fellow. Quite a number of people cursed in their hearts when they saw Xiao Yin moving immediately after seeing that there was no danger. They also quickly moved their bodies and raised their speed to the maximum. All of them flooded into the large hall like floodwater. Xiao Yan's group was quick to charge in. In the blink of an eye, they had already entered the stone door, after which their speed was reduced. Their eyes were stunned as they watched the scene that appeared in front of them. The thing that appeared in front of them was an incomparably large hall. A person would feel exceptionally tiny when standing in this large hall. Everyone looked around them and discovered that there were quite a number of deep corridors around the large hall that extended to an unknown location. At this moment, there were already quite a few factions and experts who had charged in. They had began to separate and rush towards those pathway. Ziyin, can you sense something? Xiao Yin knitted his eyebrows as he looked at these pathways with ends that could not be seen. He turned towards Ziyin by the side and asked. This place was still the entrance area of the large hall. Its interior would definitely be even more complicated. They would really have a tough time searching if they charged around randomly. I am able to sniff some scent of medicinal ingredients. However, it is very vague. Ziyin twitched her nose and said, Lead the way. Xiaoyan hurriedly said with some joy. Understood.
Ziyan nodded.
She identified their direction before rushing towards a path at the left of the large hall. Xiaoyan's group hurriedly followed. The pathway of the large hall was extremely wide. The couple of them appeared just like little birds flying within it. It was also possible to see some other experts coming to seek for treasures along the way. Fortunately, they did not head over and disturb Xiaoyan's group. There were occasionally some rooms located at the two sides of this path. At times, a large group of people would swarm over like bandits and began to thoroughly search the rooms. Although this action was very barbaric, there were indeed some lucky fellows who had found some chi method and do skills. However, their class were not very high. The best of all them had only reached the D class. Even though this was the case, the one who obtained the treasure would still end up attracting quite a number of fiery hot gazes. While Xiao Yan's group was following the medicinal ingredient scent in their search, they would occasionally barge into a couple of rooms, but they did not obtain anything useful. It was likely that the true treasures were not kept in these places. Seeing that these rooms would not provide much reward, Xiao Yan's group also completely withdrew their attentions from them. They focused on following behind Ziyin. After they had flew for around 15 minutes or so in the corridor, Ziyin at the front gradually came to a halt. The eyes of Xiao Yan's group were instantly thrown towards the front after seeing Ziyin coming to a halt. There was an extremely ancient stone door at that spot. A great amount of moss had climbed over the stone door, allowing one to sense just how long had passed. This place has the densest scent of medicinal ingredient. It is likely this is where the medicinal ingredients are stored. I wonder if they are spoilt after so many years. Ziyin pointed at the stone door and said, Unlikely. An elite doshang has many ways to preserve medicinal ingredients forever. Xiao Yin shook his head. He slowly stepped forwards and carefully checked the place. Only after discovering that there was no trap did he use his strength to push the stone door open. Rumble. Amidst a low and deep noise, the moss-covered thick, heavy stone door was being slowly pushed open. Waves of rich medicinal fragrance that had been hidden for countless number of years immediately surged out. It caused the mind of everyone to be braced. A surprise also flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes when he sniffed this fragrance. He increased the strength on his hand, and the stone door was completely pushed open. A glaring bright light shot out the instant the stone door was fully opened. This caused the eyes of Xiao Yan's group to be narrowed. They swiftly took 2 steps back, and the do qi within their bodies also swiftly began to circulate. They were prepared to intervene in any sudden unexpected situations. The light gradually weakened and everyone's eyes were once again opened. Immediately, they gently inhaled a breath of cool air. Behind the stone door was not a stone room as everyone had expected. Instead, it was a forest. An ancient forest that was completely made up of various rare and precious medicinal ingredients. Damn it! Compared to the medicinal ingredients here, the 10,000 medicinal mountain range of mine is really nothing. Xiongzhan looked at these many medicinal ingredients that were extremely rare in the outside world. His face was completely stunned. Who? Xiao Yin was also violently stunned by this ancient forest, which was completely made up of rare and precious medicinal ingredients. It was a long time later before he gradually recovered. He swiftly pulled everyone in before shutting the stone door behind them. Although he knew that this was not very useful to those bandit-like fellows, this would at least cause some people to miss it. Such a frightening medicinal ingredient reserve definitely possessed an allure that could not be resisted to some factions. Wow, this is a good place. Ziyan's eyes appeared to have countless number of tiny stars in them at this moment. She wiped off her saliva and finally leaped without being able to control. After which, she reached into some Ganoderma with an extremely rich energy and grabbed it. She subsequently stuffed it into her mouth. The medicinal ingredients here had an exceptionally dense energy after having grown for countless of years. This was a great nourishment for Ziyan. Although its taste was a little inferior before having undergone Xiao Yan's refinement, the rich energy was able to allow Ziyan to bolt out the taste. Xiao Yan felt neither able to laugh nor cry when he saw this action of hers. His gaze swept around him and forcefully endured the impulse to place all the medicinal ingredients in this forest into his storage ring. With a wave of his hand, he walked towards the deep parts of the forest. Currently, there was not much time for him to take all of the medicinal ingredients here with him. Let's go and find the soul baby fruit first. Little fairy doctor's group nodded. After which, she pulled Ziyan, who was lying within the medicinal ingredient pile and refusing to move, up. Next, they followed Xiao Yan and walked into this ancient forest. The vast forest had an unusual fragrance lingering over it. A faint fog covered the forest, and there would occasionally be some small beast rushing out from the grass. The peaceful atmosphere caused it to appear like paradise. This ancient forest had already formed its own world after countless number of years of evolution. It also possessed quite a number of powerful magical beasts. Everyone should be careful. A couple of figures rushed over the midair before landing on a large tree. Xiao Yan's eyes swept around him before softly issuing the reminder. He could sense that there were quite a number of powerful auras in this forest. They were clearly the magical beasts of this place. Yes, quite a number of magical beasts here are creatures belonging to the ancient times. Their fighting strength are quite strong. It would be a little troublesome if one get entangled with them. Tian Huazunjia nodded and spoke in a deep voice. TCH, what did it matter if they are ancient creatures? Relax, everything will be fine if you follow me. Ziyan curled her small mouth. Her eyes swept around her before her toes pressed onto a tree branch. Her delicate small body rushed out and headed into the deep parts of the forest. Let's follow this girl. It will be safer following her in this place. Xiao Yan smiled towards everyone before taking the lead to follow Ziyan. This ancient forest was quite big. Even with the speed of Xiao Yan's group, they were still unable to see the edge of the forest despite having shuttled for over 10 minutes. From this, one could tell just how vast the remains left behind by this Dosheng from the ancient times was. Xiao Yan's group had felt quite a lot of powerful auras along the way. There were even a couple of times when there were some large-sized, ferocious-looking magical beast passing in front of them. However, perhaps it was because Ziyan was an ancient void dragon. That vaguely present dragon might cause these magical beasts to avoid stepping forward and disturb their group. This had caused Xiao Yan's group to travel smoothly. Key. A couple of human figures rushed past the forest before Xiao Yan paused his footsteps. He turned his head towards the north and frowned tightly. What is it? Little fairy doctor hurriedly asked upon seeing this. Other people have entered. Moreover, there's quite a large number of them. Xiao Yan said. Looks like they have also discovered the stone door. Little fairy doctor knitted her eyebrows and said, No, they are from another direction. It looks like there are more entrances into this ancient forest than just the one we took. Xiao Yan helplessly shook his head. He immediately continued, Looks like we need to be faster. I've sensed it. Xiao Yan's words had just sounded when a joy suddenly surged on the little face of Ziyan at the front. Soul baby fruit? Xiao Yan's heart tightened as he hurriedly asked. Yes, that's no mistake. I am more familiar than you when it comes to the scent of these kind of natural treasure.
Ziyan nodded.
She did not hesitate as she pressed her toes on a tree branch and swiftly charged out. Xiao Yan's group hurriedly followed behind her. Swoosh, swoosh. The sound of rushing wind continued to appear deep within the forest. Due to them being afraid of being followed, Xiao Yan's group had increased their speed greatly. Their group moved behind Ziyin. Only after 10 minutes did Ziyin in front finally gently landed her body in front of a large tree. Her eyes were staring intently at the front. Xiaoyan also swiftly landed. His eyes followed Ziyan's gaze and swept over the place, after which it stilled. A wild joy that was difficult to hide appeared on his face. The thing that appeared in front of Xiao Yan's group was 100 feet large lake. The lake water within was unusually clear. However, one could not see the bottom at a glance. The middle of the lake was a small floating plot of land. It was just like a small island at the middle of a lake. On that island was an extremely strange small tree. The small tree was grayish-silver in color. Its tree branches were entwined like vines. These tree branches would form a strange arc wherever it was extended. If looked at it while standing from afar, one would discover that the shape of these plants were very much like a pregnant woman with a bulging womb. There was a golden light overflowing from the interior of the belly that was formed by the many branches. It is indeed the soul baby demon tree. Xiao Yin sighed in relief when he saw this strange, shaped plant and spoke in a rejoiced manner. What are you waiting for now that you have found it? Go and get it. Xiong Zhan parted his mouth and laughed. Wait, any natural spiritual objects will have some guardian magical beast. This soul baby fruit is a unique treasure that refines a soul. It possesses a great effect towards some magical beasts too. How is it possible for it not to have a guardian beast? Ziyin, however, shook her head. After which, her eyes paused on the lake. Her small fist was clenched, and she threw a punch. A frightening wind violently slammed onto the surface of the lake and creating an enormous hole.
Bang!
This punch had just been thrown when the calm lake surface suddenly formed a monstrous wave. Immediately, Xiao Yan's group discovered that there was an enormous shadow swiftly surfacing from within the lake. Finally, a splash sounded and it broke out of the water. Its enormous eyes contained a fierce glint as it swept all over the place. It is actually the heaven-reaching semi-dragon. It has already become extinct in the outside world. Ziyin was involuntarily surprised when she saw the enormous magical beast that broke out of the water. Xiao Yan's group also looked at this enormous being that had broke out from the water. This thing possessed a body of a snake. Its long body was covered with green scales. That body of it was extremely long, so much so that Xiao Yan's group could only see the portion above the surface of the water. There was also a dark black long horn on its head. The long horn had some mysterious symbols, and there was a blue-colored light vaguely flickering over it. Heaven-reaching semi-dragon. This kind of magical beast from the ancient times was something that Xiao Yin had read about from some ancient text. During the ancient times, the fighting strength of such a magical beast was quite famous. It was rumored that the body of the heaven-reaching semi-dragon had some dragon tribe bloodline flowing within it. If it could wash and refine it as well as experience many lightning tribulations, it might perhaps be able to evolve into a true ancient void dragon existence. It is unexpected that we are still able to see the heaven-reaching semi-dragon here, Xiaoyan sighed. After which, he looked at Ziyin. The latter nodded and said, "Leave it to me." The strength of this heaven-reaching semi-dragon was around that of the peak of rank 7. However, by relying on its bloodline and physical body, it could even fight against an elite Dozun. Although Xiao Yan's group could finish it off, it was naturally the best if they need not fight. Should this fellow's beast instincts be unleashed during the battle and end up destroying the soul baby fruit, they would really end up in a situation where there was nowhere for them to go crying to. Ziyin leaped down from the tree branch and gently landed on the lake. Purple light spread out from her body and transformed into a 10 feet large purple light dragon. This purple dragon roared towards the sky when it appeared. Although the purple dragon was small in size, it was a genuine ancient void dragon. That was the pinnacle existence within the magical beast world. Additionally, the heaven-reaching semi-dragon possessed a similar bloodline to it. That kind of dragon might was obviously exceptionally intense. Under the low roar by the purple dragon, the fierceness in the eyes of the heaven-reaching semi-dragon was also gradually withdrawn. Its enormous body slowly shrunk back into the water. That enormous head moved towards Ziyin in an extremely gentle pet-like manner. Xiao Yan's group sighed in relief when they saw this. Ziyin patted the head of the heaven-reaching semi-dragon before pointing towards the soul baby tree at the middle of the lake. That heaven-reaching semi-dragon was startled for a moment after seeing the direction that Ziyin pointed towards. Its eyes had a human-like unwillingness appearing in it. It had protected the soul baby fruit for so many years. Naturally, it was unwilling to just give it to others. However, the bloodline pressure that was emitted from Ziyin's body caused it to be unable to resist. In an instant, it could only end up being dispirited and appeared quite pitiful. Can we give it some compensation? It is really very pitiful. Ziyin's heart softened upon seeing this manner of the heaven-reaching semi-dragon. She turned her head and asked Xiao. Xiaoyan's figure rushed down and landed beside Ziyin. He cupped his hands towards the heaven-reaching semi-dragon and said, "I am really sorry. Originally, I do not wish to snatch something that you like, but the soul baby fruit is really too important to us. This kind of unique treasure might be of great use to one's soul, but the main aspect that a magical beast train is the physical body. The effect of having a strong soul is not very great. I have 2 types of medicinal pills that possessed some refining effect towards a magical beast physical body. It should possess quite a great effect towards you. Additionally, your body contains the ancient dragon bloodline. There is quite a great difficult transforming into a human form. There is also a matured body transformation grass." The eyes of the heaven-reaching semi-dragon immediately brightened when it heard the words body transformation grass. Only then did it suddenly nod its large head. Xiao quietly sighed in relief within his heart upon seeing this. He hurriedly took out the medicinal pills and a jade box. The heaven-reaching semi-dragon sucked with its large mouth and swallowed all of them into its stomach. It was finally satisfied with this compensation. It moved its enormous body and entered the deep parts of the lake while bringing about some ripples. After gently dispatching with this large fellow, Xiao waved his hand towards Ziyin by the side. His body subsequently moved, and he appeared on the island at the middle of the lake. Only when he stood beside the soul baby demon tree did Xiao realize that 2 fist-sized golden fruits were hung within the pregnant woman's belly like tree branches. The fruits appeared just like a vivid human-like baby. A vaguely present fragrance spread from it, causing the soul between Xiao brows to involuntarily tremble a little. "Quickly take the thing away. The sound of magical beast roar within this forest is becoming dense." It seems that quite a number of people had barged in. Little fairy doctor's group also hurried to the island in the middle and urged. Xiao nodded. He cut a thick soul baby demon tree branch before swiftly making a somewhat crude wooden box. This soul baby fruit was extremely mysterious. It cannot be kept using any other materials. Otherwise, it would gradually vaporize. The only thing that could contain it was the tree branch of the demon tree. Upon the successful creation of a wooden box, Xiao carefully cut through the many branches, after which he cut off the 2 tree branches that held the soul baby fruit and carefully placed them into the wooden box. He flipped his hand and kept it into his storage ring. "We have finally obtained the soul baby fruit." Xiao heart appeared as though it had been relieved of a heavy stone the moment he kept the soul baby fruit into his storage ring. He had finally completed his mission. Yao Lao would definitely be able to recover his peak strength this time around. "Let's go." Xiao was planning to leave quickly after having kept the soul baby fruit when he discovered that Ziyin beside him was staring at an even deeper part of the forest in a startled manner. He became stunned as he asked, "What is it?" "There, something is summoning me." Ziyin's eyes also became a little lost and blurry at this moment. That kind of feeling seemed to have originated from her bloodline. Xiao group were startled upon hearing these words of Ziyin. They followed her eyes and looked towards the spot where she was staring at. However, all they could see was an endless forest. There was not the slightest unusual sign at that place. Xiao revealed an expression of deep thought. It was impossible for Ziyin to suddenly have such a feeling. The latter was an ancient void dragon. Forget about him. It was likely that even Yao Lao did not really understand that kind of mysterious existence. As for that kind of mysterious summoning that Ziyin had mentioned, it was perhaps only something that she alone could sense. What should we do? The sound of magical beast roar within this ancient forest is becoming increasingly close to each other. It seemed that quite a number of experts had been attracted to this place. Little fairy doctor looked at Xiao Yin and said. Xiao Yin frowned slightly. He glanced at Ziyin, whose eyes had remained locked on the deep parts of the forest. A moment later, he finally nodded violently and spoke in a deep voice. Let's go and take a look. Since we have entered a treasure mountain, we must naturally witness a true treasure. Those other treasure seekers do not have the deterrence of a dragon's might. It is not easy for them to successfully walk in. We still have a sufficient amount of time. A smile surfaced on the small face of Ziyin, who had been staring continuously after seeing Xiao Yin nod his head. Her toes pressed on the ground, and her body took the lead to rush into the deep parts of the forest. Xiao Yin's group hurriedly followed upon seeing this. The magical beast aura in the forest behind the lake was undoubtedly even fiercer than those outside. There were even a couple of auras that caused Xiao Yan's group to reveal a solemn expression. It was fortunate that there was Ziyan's dragon's might as a deterrence. Although those auras had also sensed Xiao Yan's group, it was obvious that they gradually withdrew after hesitating. In their memories, those owners of this kind of dragon might were all extremely troublesome existence. It was best to avoid provoking them if they could. Of course, these beasts that had remained within this ancient forest for an unknown amount of time failed to sense that the owner of this dragon might was merely a child ancient void dragon. Nevertheless, Xiao Yan's group was lucky to have not met with much obstruction within this deep regions of the forest where danger lurks all around. Hence, after shuttling through it for nearly 10 minutes, the speed of their group had slowly reduced. The surrounding aura has completely disappeared. Little fairy doctor suddenly sensed something when they stepped into a certain region, and she softly commented. Xiao Yan's expression changed slightly upon hearing this. After briefly sensing the place, he indeed discovered that those monstrous aura that he had felt earlier had actually completely disappeared. What happened? Tian Huazunjia also frowned tightly. A cautious expression also surfaced on his face. If one was careless in this place, it was likely that one could only forever remain in this place as the fertilizer for the medicine. There is no need to be worried. This place is already the center of the ancient forest. Ziyin softly said. Her eyes were focused intently on a spot a short distance ahead. That place was a flatland. There was nothing strange on those lush green grass. This caused Xiao Yan's group to wonder a little. Was this the place that had summoned Ziyin? Ziyin drifted down from a tree branch, and she slowly took over a dozen steps on the ground. After which, her small face was serious as she extended her little hand. Just when her small hand came into contact with the empty space half a foot from the ground, a golden light suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Xiao Yan's group looked at the golden light that had suddenly appeared. Some surprise flashed across their eyes. This golden light turned into an inverted bowl shape. The bottom and top were round. Its size was over 100 feet in diameter. Although the golden light was dazzling, it was covered by the many densely stacked trees. Unless one was close by, otherwise, it was impossible to discover it. What is this? Xiao Yan's group also flashed and appeared beside Ziyin. They looked at the golden light barrier in front, and a solemn expression covered their eyes. They could sense a kind of pressure from this mysterious golden light barrier. This kind of pressure allowed them to understand that even if all of them were to join hands, it was likely that they would not be able to break this strange golden light barrier. This is a beast spiritual barrier. Only a magical beast with extremely great strength when it was alive could form such a beast spirit barrier, and can only do so when it was about to die. Ziyan's small hand gently rubbed the light barrier. A kind of faint grief was present on her face. Xiao Yin was silent. Since this thing was summoning Ziyin, it meant that the owner of this beast spiritual barrier was very likely from the ancient Void Dragon tribe. Something's wrong. Ziyin touched the light barrier. Her small face changed suddenly as she said, "This beast spiritual barrier not only have the scent of an ancient void dragon, but there seemed to be a little heaven demon phoenix scent. However, this kind of scent is far purer than the current heaven demon phoenix tribe." Xiao Yan's group looked at each other upon hearing this. Could it be that someone from the ancient heaven demon phoenix tribe had also died in this place? Won't you know if you open and take a look? Xiong Zhan by the side rubbed his head and said. Ziyin nodded slightly. Since she had come here, she must go in and take a look. Immediately, she bit her delicate finger. A drop of golden yellow blood appeared. She placed her finger gently onto the beast's spiritual barrier before drawing a golden yellow blood mark. Only those with similar bloodline are able to open this kind of beast spiritual barrier. Following the drawing of the golden yellow blood mark, the spot where the mark was swiftly fluctuated. Immediately, the golden light barrier rippled and a golden light crack line was slowly being torn and formed. Let's go. Ziyin waved her hand upon seeing this. She took a step in. After hesitating for a moment, Xiao Yan's group behind her also closely followed. After the last person entered the beast spiritual barrier, that golden light fluctuated once again and the crack lines swiftly disappeared. Xiao Yan's group felt dazzled the moment they stepped into the beast spiritual barrier. The lush green forest disappeared almost instantly. A desolated plain replaced it. The size of this plain was quite large. It was covered with bright red sand that looked as though it had been dyed with fresh blood. There would occasionally be some pale white stone dust color amidst the bright redness. When they looked afar, everyone found that there was 1,000 feet large ancient stone altar located at the middle of the plains. A vaguely present pressure permeated from the altar, causing the dou qi within the body of Xiao Yan's group to become sluggish. What a frightening pressure! Xiao Yan's group exchanged looks with each other. They could see a shock from the other party's eyes. Just the pressure alone could cause them to be in such a condition. Just how frightening was the owner of the pressure? Ziyan's eyes were directly locked onto that enormous stone altar the moment she entered this place. She mused for a moment before her toes pressed gently onto the ground, after which she flew towards the altar. From her manner, it seemed that she was not affected by this kind of pressure. Xiao Yan's group hurriedly followed when they saw this action of Ziyin. A moment later, they finally landed above the huge stone altar. An ancient feeling pounced towards them upon close contact with this enormous stone altar. This caused Xiao Yan's group to rearrange their emotions. Xiao Yan's group stood at the middle of the altar. Looking up from this spot, they could see a flight of green stone stairs that extended to the end. Ziyan's eyes were startled as she looked at the end of the stone stairs. That summoning feeling seemed to be increasingly strong. Who? Ziyin gently exhaled a breath of air. Her small face had also become unusually grave. Her foot stomped on the ground, and she transformed into a light figure that rushed up the stone stairs in a lightning-like manner before appearing at the end of the altar. Xiao Yan's group followed closely behind. When they arrived at the front of the altar, they ended up seeing Ziyan's incredible stunned face. His eyes looked over, only to see that there was a golden-purple stone platform at the middle of the altar. A half-a-foot large groove was present above the stone stairs. At this moment, a small tree seedling was beginning to grow from within the stone platform. The tree seedling was only as thick as a thumb, but it meandered around like an enormous dragon. The top of this little tree seedling hung a fruit. This fruit was the size of a palm. It was both golden and purple in color. If one was to carefully observe it, one could discover that the golden half was twisting and turning, appearing just like a shrunk version of an ancient void dragon. The other purple half was dancing with spread wings. A phoenix? That's right. It was indeed a heaven demon phoenix. Although this was a little different from the drawing that Xiao Yan had seen, but the overall shape could still be recognized by Xiao Yan. A fruit that is formed by an ancient void dragon and a heaven demon phoenix? Xiao Yan's group glanced at each other after looking at this extremely mysterious fruit. All of them were at a loss. Even with Xiao Yan's ability to recognize medicine, he had never heard that there was actually such a unique treasure in this world. It seems that the pressure is being emitted from within the fruit? Little fairy doctor commented softly. Her voice also contained a disbelief. Xiao Yan's heart also shook when he heard this. Only then did he discover that the pressure that permeated this place was indeed emitted from within this dragon phoenix fruit, which had an extremely strange outer appearance. This is the dragon phoenix origin fruit. It only exists inside some of the ancient books of the ancient dragon tribe. That phoenix is also not a heaven demon phoenix. Instead, it is their ancestor, the ancient heaven phoenix. This kind of fruit requires the absorption of the life force from an ancient void dragon and an ancient heaven phoenix in order to gain a 10% chance of being born. Even in the records of the ancient void dragon, this dragon phoenix origin fruit had only appeared for a mere 5 times. This is the 6th time. Xian's eyes were startled as she looked at the dragon phoenix origin fruit that truly only existed in legends. A moment later, she suddenly turned her head. She stood at the top of the altar and looked down at the vast plains from above. Only then did she discover that the pale white color amidst the bright red mud vaguely outlined an extremely huge dragon and heaven phoenix skeleton. An ancient void dragon and an ancient heaven phoenix had actually died together at this very spot.